Okay, so taking this and the trends that we've spoken about, obviously we talked about the fact that service delivery is becoming more and more digital, and to some extent there's no option but to go through digital delivery of the services. So obviously this has been impacted post COVID-19. But Mohammed, what sort of data practices do you see are playing a role that is essential in governments being able to provide those services in a digital fashion?
Yeah, so as we all know that the engine or oil for any digital service is actually data. And without that, nothing can really move. And that's where we've seen the biggest challenge, I would say, pre-COVID. The biggest debate was between siloed government organizations. How do we agree to look at exchange of data that will enable for better connectivity and what I call unified service delivery? So typically, if you see how government is structured, legacy-wise, we are all siloed organizations. Rightly so, that was the operating model which made sense. And even when we looked at how we went from being a analog government to a maybe more modernized government and eventually into e-government. And if I remember back the days when we were doing it in the UK government, whilst I was working there, there was this whole shift. And it was all shift based on each organization thinking about themselves. What technology stacks do I need to build? What processes I need to put in place? And all that worked extremely well. And it wasn't we didn't even think about the kind of layer which is connecting between all of these, which is the citizen layer, or the users. So, if you think from a government to user perspective, a user is one government. Yet we have broken it down into different silos for delivery purposes, so access becomes challenging. So data, and obviously the new technologies that we have today, and particularly cloud, is enabling us to really break these silos without actually disrupting the operating models for each of these organizations, but creating this front-end layer which enables for better service delivery. So that's the conversation now I'm seeing take place, and much more openness towards sharing and exchange of data. And the Estonian principle, the once only principle, everyone is starting to think about how do we make it possible for users to give that data once and it's stored somehow, and we don't have to ask for it again. Yeah. The other lens I would put on this, or a perspective, is this nature of proactive and predictive is starting to become much more talked about. How do we move from a situation where all the effort is on me as a citizen or as a consumer or user, where I have to remember I need to apply for something, I need to go through the process of doing that, versus where the data government holds triggers off your something that basically you are now, for example, got to 18, and therefore you have some support services or some benefits that the government would give you at the age of 18. And it's more the government reaching out and saying, congratulations on your 18th birthday. We just want to let you know that we have actually activated your benefit, not even, asking you for it, if it's something from you to them. So that kind of model of thinking, and beyond that as well, how do you become more predictive, not just proactive? So example I use is passports. Typically, we all have to apply for it to be when we run out of our passport pages, or it's expiring. That shift towards the government knows that you are and has data and is able to say to you, through a push notification, that we know your passport is expiring. Would you like us to send you a new passport? And swipe right, yes, and if it's yes, just to validate your information. And to a point where even if you don't have your passport expiring, but I know that you travel so much, you could have potentially run out of pages. So I'm again reaching out to you and say, I know your passport is not expiring, but maybe you need a new passport because your pages are running out. So that kind of mindset, which will get enabled through this data layer of exchange and more collaboration across government organizations.
Yeah, that would be the day when something like this takes place. Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully. And in fact, provocative, I use this example, and it's again links to data. that I believe passports have passed their sell-by date. Think about it, why do we need passports? And that's what I meant by reimagining. You start to think about what purpose was this particular thing I'm doing as a government fulfilling? And do I still need to fulfill it in the way I did before? Or, for example, in the case of passports, we are facial recognition, biometrics. Is that the way? So I become the passport as a human being rather than a physical document,
100%.